With a fickle mind, we kick the nipple beer. Steady as a goat, we're flying over trout. Ghetto down the highway at the speed of light. All I wanna feel now is the wind in my eyes. Sack of monkeys in my pocket. My sister's ready to go. Hear the engines roll now. Idiot control now. Hideous control now. Nitty on the road now. Mini in control. Wheels on fire. Burning rubber tires.
Hello everybody and welcome to the MSTieCast on video. I am your host Toby Mobius and with me is Joshua M.
Hi there.
Who looks like Slimer.
Is it going to record the Slimer? I didn't know that.
It's recording the Slimer.
Oh.
The MXC Slimer.
I would have changed it if I'd known that.
No, it's
Okay.
fine.
I would change it to a moose or something.
And as you can see, or can't if you're listening to the audio version, we are here with Obscurus Lupa, Allison Pregler of Obscurus Lupa Presents.
Hello.
Yes, welcome, Lupa.
Well, thank you.
All right, so I guess we'll start the same way we begin every interview episode. How did you get into Mystery Science Theater?
I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I started watching it probably early 2000s, like it was still on Sci-Fi Channel. I think I saw it on TV, and I wasn't sure what it was, and I started watching it from there. And a lot of the episodes I saw through, there was digital archiving going on. You didn't have a lot of DVDs at the time, things like that, and that's how I saw a lot of them. And that's how I started getting into it.
I think that's how a lot of the newer converts started. They see it on TV and they're like, "What is this?" And then they become hooked.
Mm-hmm.
Just as planned.
And there's sort of this nostalgic feel to it, like you feel like you should be watching it on an old TV, on a VHS kind of, and it has a different feel than most things that were on at the time or now.
Yeah, there's never really been a show quite like it before or since. And I think that's what makes it so enduring. That's why people still are in love with it. And of course, that's why we still have riff tracks and cinematic Titanic.
Yeah, the other day I just watched the Plan 9 from Outer Space riff tracks, because they have some on Hulu. And that was really funny. I feel like a bad B-movie fan, because I hadn't seen Plan 9 before then, but it's a lot of fun.
I have the live version of that riff tracks, and it's pretty funny. I don't really like the live as much, though.
I heard they like doing the live ones better, because, you get a live audience to feed off of.
Well, the problem with the live version is there's like 30, 40 minutes between the beginning of the video and the Plan 9 riff. Because they have Jonathan Colton performing, and they have these shorts from Low Tax at Something Awful. It takes a while to really get started, which is what I have a problem with. It's funny, but it takes a while before we get to the meat. Yeah.
I suppose if you're watching it later, you can skip around.
Yeah.
If you were going to a live performance, I guess you'd want, a big thing.
And that was something I thought they did a lot better in their second live version, because they went straight to the movie. There was a short introduction, but then no filler. And I really enjoyed that. Out of curiosity, which do you prefer? Or have you... I should start by asking, have you seen any of the cinematic Titanic riffs?
I haven't, so I guess I couldn't say if I preferred.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of people haven't seen a lot of the cinematic Titanic, and I guess that's because it's harder to obtain than riff tracks.
Well, it's you have to buy. You can't. I said it on the last one, but you can't
With Riff Tracks, you just download the MP3, and then if you own the video, you have it right there. But with Cinematic Titanic, they don't really have streaming online or anything like that. You have to buy the DVD through their website. I think there may be like 1 or 2 copies on eBay, but other than that,
well, they have direct download.
I don't think so. I checked.
Are you sure? Because I thought like the older ones were direct download.
I'll check. You guys want to keep talking?
Josh, our research department.
Yeah.
He's also a human encyclopedia. Ask him anything, he will tell you the answer. Except regarding certain season 1 host segments.
I told him this yesterday. Servo is not in the KTMA version. He's in the Corpse Vanishes version. He's not in the KTMA version.
All I'm hearing is Toby won. Yeah, you had to have been there, Lupa.
Yeah.
Callback jokes. Anyway, but if you haven't seen Cinematic Titanic, and this is for everyone, not just Lupa, I highly recommend checking out any that you can. And I know this is really frowned upon, but if you can like torrent it and just see if you like it, because I'm a big believer in downloading something to see if you like it and then going out and buying it if you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a big fan of this band Real Big Fish, and before I bought their albums, and I own every one of their albums, I downloaded several of them to see if I liked it. I did, and now I have hard copies of them. So.
Yeah, and there's some things like Riff Tracks where they'll do highlights of, best of certain episodes that are on YouTube, and if you like the highlights, then you can see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, Cinematic Titanic does that as well, but I think a lot of the better jokes aren't in the best of, which is weird. Like, the one I always point to is their version of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. And
It's
just
the only one you've seen.
I've seen the other one in the interim time, but this is still my favorite. Not all of them. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen several more. The beginning is they're walking to the facility where they watch the movies. They're told what movie it is, and Crow, he just bolts. He runs out screaming, and it's such a funny sight gag. They have to drag him into the theater. It's pretty great, and it only works if you see, the original. So. Very interesting joke, and I did enjoy it. And it wasn't in the best of video, and I wondered why.
I mean, it's because it's not part of the actual show.
Yeah, maybe they're just highlighting the riffing.
Yeah, true.
And subjective what the best of. Maybe they don't want to do the actual best of, so you can see the episode for yourself.
That's very true. I mean, it's like those movies while the best parts are in the trailer, I guess. You don't give away the best jokes. Okay,
Some would disagree with that, but okay, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah. So, you said you began during the Sci-Fi Channel era. Which era do you prefer, the Comedy Central or the Sci-Fi?
Well, I only ever watched it when it was on Sci-Fi. I mean, I've seen older episodes, obviously, but I can't really distinguish between them.
The only real the big distinction is if Pearl was the villain, it was Sci-Fi. Otherwise, it was Comedy Central.
Okay. Well, I think I liked Dr. Forrester better as a villain, but some of the best episodes are the Pearl ones.
Right.
So depends on the movie, I suppose. But I think the ones with Mike tended to be a little more accessible to me, and those ones were often the funniest for me.
Right. Yeah. It is interesting because I'm a huge fan of this Comedy Central era. That's my favorite version of the show, but my favorite episode is a Sci-Fi Channel era. It's also
Which one's yours?
My favorite episode.
Don't say it, because we're doing a later show.
Well, I've said it several times.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
My favorite episode is Soultaker.
Awesome.
And I also really, really like Werewolf. That's like a close second.
Well, the awesome Joe Estevez episodes. You know? I do like Mr. Estevez.
By the way, you can't call him Joe Estevez anymore. You have to call him, quote, Martin Sheen's brother, Joe Estevez. That's his name. So you're like, hey, did you see that Martin Sheen's brother, Joe Estevez movie?
Or you have to say Joe Phelan as well. He goes by Joe Phelan sometimes.
Joe Phelan?
Yeah, I don't know why. He's been credited that way sometimes, and that's how Phelan heard of him.
Sheen not good enough for the guy?
Yeah, Joe.
I don't know if you've
Joe
seen
Sheen.
his IMDb list, how many movies he's been in, but I don't think he really cares about the prestige.
You could also refer to him as Charlie Sheen's uncle, Joe Estevez.
Yeah.
My nephew made Mighty Ducks.
You have a role for me.
Hi, I'm Joe Estevez. You're probably wondering, but no, I'm not Martin Sheen. I'm his vastly more talented, yet slightly underappreciated brother, Joe.
I love his perpetual confusion. That's the best part of watching him in anything.
That's very true. We really should do like a Joe Estevez episode at some point in the future.
If we can get him. Or we can just talk about him behind his back.
Well, that's what I meant. Do an episode on the 2 episodes he was in.
I bet you could probably talk to him if you contact him.
Yeah, I mean we got David Worth, so.
Yeah, that was a really interesting listen. I liked listening to that one.
Thanks.
Thank
We worked hard on that episode.
He seemed like a really funny guy, and I really didn't realize how many movies that I'd reviewed that he'd done. So it was cool that he had a sense of humor about all of this.
Yeah, I told him he was like really excited to see the reviews.
Yeah, that was. Thank you for mentioning me. You didn't have to do that, and that was cool.
Hey, I like other people to get their work seen too. So, and I'm sure you're going to tell other people about this episode.
Hint,
Yes.
hint.
Because we need the clout.
Oh yeah, I'll bring you clout.
Freshly poached. It's funny because it sounds like the name of a fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just
Now
thinking.
And now we're just...
I was thinking of a poached egg, and it didn't make any kind of sense.
This is why I don't tell jokes on this show.
Do you poach trout or do you poach salmon? Can you poach any kind of fish?
I believe you can poach any kind of fish.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, that joke makes no sense. I'm sure we're going to get a comment about it.
Yeah.
If we had fans, we'd get a comment about it.
Well, someone who's listening, leave
We
a comment. Can you poach any kind of fish, or is trout? Would that be a thing?
Is
said-
it right or wrong? Please let us know.
It's the mystery of the hour.
Oh, there'll be more.
Yes, many, many more. Now, you said you preferred Dr. Forrester as the villain of the experiment, but what are your thoughts on Pearl? Because that tends to be kind of polarizing.
I think she's funny, but I think the gags kind of went on too long. And maybe it's just because, I haven't seen all of the episodes of the show. I mean, I've seen a good handful, but whenever there were episodes with Pearl in them, a lot of the sketches went on really long, and you had to find the jokes of the characters from like one episode funny, like the brain guy and the monkey. I'm spacing on the names, but they use those a lot to play off each other, but it went on for a really long time, and if you didn't find that joke funny, it just kind of a lot of dead air, I guess.
Yeah, that is something I've noticed about the Pearl episodes. Is a lot of the bits are pretty long runner. But sometimes they come up with a winner, like Like, I really like in going back to Werewolf, when they're trying to make a werewolf, that last host segment where Bo brings in the dog.
I think the best Pearl segment is the evil space children from Parts of the Clonus Horror.
Right.
Where the little kids are the omnipotent kids, and they're playing Candyland, and that was just great.
That was great. That was a good one.
I'm trying to remember which episode it was where.
I'll remember.
Okay, where Pearl and her gang are all trying to
Mars
for something for Mike and the robots.
Horrors of Spider Island.
Oh yeah, that was the one. Yeah. I thought that bit was funny. I liked Horrors of Spider Island too, and a lot of the black and white ones, just because of the movies being featured, sometimes they can be kind of samey and it's hard, I think, harder to make them funny. But Horrors of Spider Island, I thought, was one of the better ones. I really liked that one.
Yeah, I need to watch more of the black and white sci-fi era episodes, because I've seen a few of them, but I need to see the rest of them. I think my favorite out of those would be Revenge of the Creature, just because I really like the riffing in that one. I really like the host segments.
I liked The Crawling Hand as well. That was a good black and white one.
That's a good one.
And I Accuse My Parents was pretty good too.
I love that one.
See, I like that one, but I don't really like it as much as like everyone else seems to. It kind of goes on a little long for me, but.
Well, it's not in my favorite handful of episodes, I Accuse My Parents, but I think it's one of the better black and white ones for sure, because, again, sometimes the material is really hard to make funny.
Yeah.
So it depends. Of course, it's like that with color movies, too. I just think, like black and white ones, sometimes it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, it is a little more difficult for the black and white ones, because a lot of the time I think just because they're so dated, it's hard to get a grasp on them. You know?
Yeah, because sometimes with with more modern movies, it's easier to just be entertained by the movie, even if the riffing isn't funny. But with the black and white ones, sometimes, a lot of the time, the movie itself, you wouldn't really be able to sit through it by itself, and so it just depends on how good the jokes are and how well that it's being carried.
Combine that with the fact that we live in a generation that that is really disenfranchised with the whole black and white movie. Like, you're never going to find a 12-year-old who would sit through a black and white movie.
Unless that movie is Wizard of Oz.
Well, even then, it's only black and white for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's usually the colored version of that movie. Well, it's hard to relate to some movies once they get so dated, even if the material is all right. But even then, the same kind of plots wouldn't be handled the same way in a black and white movie as they are in more modern movies. And so sometimes it's just the way it's handled, because a lot of them are very scientists talk about something, very dialogue-y, not a lot happening. And I think that's part of why it's harder for riffs to be done on those, because it's more based on dialogue than anything.
Then on top of all that, sometimes there just was no monster.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Monster A Go-Go?
Yes, I have.
Talking to Lupa.
Was that the ending of that one?
That's the
There's
ending,
no
where there's no monster. Even though we saw the monster movie.
I did not see that one. I need to see that.
Sorry for the spoiler, but we're really not ruining anything.
It's all right. The show's been off the air quite a long time, I think.
Yeah, I think there's like
I get mad about spoilers.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of more parts of Monster A Go-Go, but that's really the only thing people tend to remember is there was no monster.
I remember the spaceship that's only like 3 feet tall, and there's a guy in it, but it's like only 3 feet tall, and it's only maybe, I wish I had my camera, but it's only about maybe as wide as a human being, and you're like, how could a person have been in that space capsule? And you would have had to have been you would have had to have been pear-shaped really, really small, and you would have had to have stood the entire journey.
Have either of you ever seen or heard of The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra?
Larry Blameyer. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it because
Yeah, I've heard of it. I know nothing about it.
Because like that is, it's kind of in the vein of Mystery Science Theater in the sense that it knows the material very well and makes fun of it in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way. Like it's a really good parody of old monster movies like that. I haven't seen the sequel to it. There was a sequel, but yeah, if you ever get the chance, Lost Skeleton is a really funny movie. There's a lot of quotable bits in it. It kind of reminded me of that because there's aliens in it, and they do a lot of dialogue that they repeat a lot, where it's very just repeating the same thing all the time, and they're pretending to be like Earthlings, and they sit down, they're like, fold yourself in the middle, stupid things like that. So.
That sounds like a movie I would enjoy. I will have to look that up.
Larry Blameyer was the director, and he, if you've bought any of the Mystery Science Theater box sets, he's always on the Ballyhoo special feature-y thingies, because he's a super Mystery Science fan.
Yeah, well then that makes sense, the tone of the movie, because it did remind me of it, even though it's not a riff, obviously, but...
I need to see if Mike seen that, if he knows where to find that. It sounds like something Mike would have seen. Our other co-host is Mike Hagan, the guy who does the Mystery Fandom Theater fan film series.
Has he been posted on the forums before on That Guy with the Glasses? I know there was a Mystery Science Theater guy, but I don't know if it was him.
It's probably about 1,000. Like a guy that actually did fan riffing, or just a guy that was a fan of Mystery Science?
No, I only saw one that he did, but he had like his own little set and I think a robot as well, but he was just talking about episodes basically.
Laszlo,
the MST guy.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, that was.
He did an interview with Trace Ballou, I think.
Trace and Josh.
Trace and Josh, yeah.
Josh was there too.
So I saw it on Satellite News when he did it.
What what he does is he built the Mystery Science Theater set in his garage. He had some friends come over who actually built a Tom Servo and a Crow, and they make their own episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're very good.
We will send you a link.
Cool.
Yes, so. Because they are about to do their last two, right? Last two?
There's Eliminators, I think, and then a bunch of short films that he hasn't told us, but shorts.
I envy people that can do riffs and sustain them of whole movies, because, like, what I do is not really the same, when I'm making fun of a movie in condensed format, but going through the whole movie and keeping it going, it'd be really difficult.
Right. Yeah, I really don't know how a lot of these people can do it, because I've done short riffs, I've written scripts for them, but once you get me trying to do a whole movie, I'm really trying to fish for jokes.
Remember,
it's really difficult for me.
Before they did it on Riff Tracks, a friend of mine and I tried to riff Laser Mission, and we were strong for about maybe 20 minutes, and then we crashed and burned.
Well, Laser Mission kind of has these long gaps of not a lot happening. I've seen all of it except the ending. But, yeah, a lot of movies, that's kind of how it is, though. There are gaps when nothing's happening, and you have to really be able to make something out of nothing to hold a riff, because there's not a lot of movies like, The Room or Birdemic where it's just funny through most of it anyway. But even Birdemic, the first half, there's not a lot happening sometimes, and you have to wait for the funny parts.
And even that's intentional. The guy who made Birdemic, whose name escapes me, he knew what he was making. He knew he was making a movie that was bad, but was ironic in its funniness. The whoever made Laser Mission wasn't trying to do that. They were trying to make a serious movie.
The guy who made Birdemic wasn't trying to be bad, though. At least not from interviews. It's James Gwen. I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong. But, no, if you see interviews with him, he thinks he made a good movie. He's not like Tommy Wiseau, who's like in retrospect, like, oh, it was a black comedy the whole time, ha ha. Like he's like, no, I think the birds look good from a distance, you know.
From a distance.
If
Yeah,
you're
from a
blind in one
distance,
eye,
If you lost your glasses and you squint really hard.
and you're blind in
Yeah,
one eye,
I
and yeah.
I remember the first time I saw Birdemic, I really thought that it was intentionally bad. But you see the interviews, he really doesn't think he made a bad movie because he wanted to make The Birds. He wanted to make a ripoff of The Birds, but he didn't know how to do it. And so he made a romantic thriller, which he trademarked. Because he is the master of the romantic thriller.
I'm pretty sure that's his business cards, too.
Hmm?
I'm pretty sure he actually does have Master of the Romantic Thriller business cards.
No, he really trademarked that he's called the master of the romantic thriller. It's on the back of the DVD.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying I think he was at Comic-Con or something. He was at some convention a few years ago, and he had that on his business card. I need to source that, but that's what I've been told, and if that's true, I want to get something like that on my business card.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I like that he sticks to his guns, because, you know, it's not like Tommy Wiseau where he's kind of pretending in retrospect that he meant to do it. I mean, James Glenn still, you know, meant to make what he made, but at least he's not admitting if it didn't turn out perfect.
Well, I find that really, really sad. I'm sorry. That he honestly thinks that was a good movie.
I'm so looking forward to Birdemic 2, because I know that even if James Glenn is self-aware, and I don't think he is, it's still going to be technically really inept. It's still going to be the same level of, I mean, like, in Birdemic, they tried to make some kind of jokes, you know, like, it wasn't all depressing, but it was still really bad. So I'm hoping that Birdemic 2 will have Damian Carter in some way, the guy who sang the Hangin' Out song. I want him to be a hero in it. Like, I want him with a rocket launcher fighting off the birds because he's got to go hang out with his family. That would be the best.
Well, they're having themselves a party.
Mm-hmm. Having themselves a party. Oh, that'd be great. They're having, like, he's with his family having a party, and then the birds crash in, and that's how he gets involved with the birds. And then maybe Rod
Amazing. I'm going to enjoy that.
I know it won't be as awesome as I imagined, but I know it will be pretty funny.
Well, he's got how popular he is, how popular that song has become, even ironically.
Well, Damian Carter was in James Glenn's other movie, Jack and Julie, that Phelan and I reviewed, and he was Father Love in that, and that was great. So if you would just keep including him with these songs and give him a real role in Birdemic 2, then that would be all I need.
That's going to be interesting. And speaking of sequels to bad movies, what's your opinion on Manos 2?
I think that's great that they're doing it, you know, sort of as a fan self-aware sequel. I don't know how it'll turn out, but I think it's awesome that they're doing it.
I think it's awesome they got the original Master to work.
That they got who?
The
Master.
The actor.
Is he still alive? I thought it was the girl who played Debbie was the only one left.
No, there's a whole bunch of rumors about that cast.
She's the daughter, I believe.
Yeah, the daughter is Tom Naiman. There's all these rumors about how the cast all died, and none of them are true.
Well, who all is left? I know there was the camera guy from the documentary.
The camera guy is still alive. The daughter is still alive. The master is still alive. Torgo is not. He killed himself. I think the wife died. I think at least both of the policemen I think are dead. I think at least one of the 7 wives is still alive.
Hal Warren's wife, who was one of the wives, is still alive. So.
Okay.
Because he died. He died in like the 80s, I think.
Yeah, he died. He had like cancer or something.
Still wore that master costume every Halloween.
Is that true?
Yes.
I would like to.
Kids in the master costume.
We talked about how Ed Wood would have reacted to his treatment on Mystery Science Theater 3000. How do you think he would have reacted to it?
Well, he is the one who said, if we dubbed this, we could totally make a comedy out of this. We overdubbed it. I mean, no, he didn't say exactly that, but he did say if we dubbed over this, we could make it into a comedy. That's what happened.
Ed Wood said that about his own movies?
No, Hal
Warren said that.
Or Hal Warren said that, okay.
Because he heard people laughing when they did the screening in El Paso.
Well, they've done that with some movies, like the one that Brad reviewed.
And
that was not a comedy, and they redubbed it as a comedy. And it was really in poor taste, but they have done that with some movies. Or What's Up, Tiger Lily? That was, they took a spy movie that wasn't a comedy and dubbed it over.
And then they had hand puppets.
Like a lot of directors that are, independent directors especially, when they're more involved with the whole production of their movies, it can go either way with how they respond to riffing, like Mystery Science Theater or anything on That Guy with the Glasses. Because I've got responses from people before, and there have been people that absolutely loved the reviews, and they love that they got the attention. Like the guys involved with Hamlet, the Vampire Slayer, they loved the review so much they were talking about it on their website. So I think it's sort of polarizing in that sense. Like some of them really love it, and some of them really hate it, and so it depends.
It's kind of the same with mystery science directors, because you get guys like David Worth who really, really get it and really enjoy it, and then you get guys like Bill Rebane, who directed Giant Spider Invasion.
Okay. What was his response to the whole thing?
He threatened to sue the company that gave the home video rights to Rhino, who put the DVD out.
He doesn't seem to understand what giving the license or selling the license means.
Well, I don't even know if he ever owned it. But go ahead, Lupa.
I was just agreeing, with license.
There's a couple other. I don't think Roger Corman got it. I think there's a thing out there that says that he doesn't like it.
Peter Graves was pretty irritated.
Yes.
Of course, Joe Don Baker, but he got over it.
I have yet to see the source of those rumors, so I don't know if I believe them.
I don't know. If someone told me Joe Don Baker got mad at the treatment of Mitchell, I'd believe it, because they did, they did screw with the movie just a little bit.
No, they didn't. We've talked about this. They didn't edit the movie. They got the made-for-TV version.
I understand, but the people who gave them that copy.
Okay.
Of course, Mitchell seems like one of the movies that was. It seemed like it would have been a legitimate movie. Like you could see it. Like a lot of the Mystery Science Theater movies you watch, you're like, it's kind of things you never would have seen or kind of schlock, and that seemed like something that maybe was more of a legitimate movie. It was still bad, but...
It seems like something I'd see on TBS really, really late at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something you could have actually seen, whereas, like Hobgoblins, you'd have to, rent it to...
You'd have to know that.
I'd say that about Santa Claus, but they air Santa Claus every year on Turner Classic Movies now, so...
A friend of mine, my friend who got me into Mystery Science Theater 3000, saw that movie, I think it was on TBS, and it wasn't even Christmas time. It was, summer.
Might have been TCM, because they air it occasionally, just because it's weird and it brings in viewers.
Well, I asked, there's a guy on the forums, the Film Renegado. He reviews Mexican films, and I asked him about Santa Claus. I'm like, do they really air that all the time? Do you watch that? And he's like, yeah, it's under a different title, but yeah, we watch that, And it's funny how some of the things that are traditions for other people are so weird to us. I'm sure that some of the holiday classics we have are very strange.
Well, they don't have Santa Claus in Mexico, really, which makes it even
Santa
weirder.
Claus?
Well, they have.
They don't have the character of Santa Claus.
Well, yeah.
I think they have sort of a. I think they do the Three Wise Men thing.
It's the Three Wise Men.
Well, I think they have Santa Claus, but he's not as big a deal as here. There's something different with how they view Santa Claus. He's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jerry was telling me that too, Film Renegado, but I don't remember what he said about it.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember some of the other Mexican movies that were on MST while we were on.
I remember all. There were 3, I think, total. There was Santa Claus, Robot versus the Aztec Mummy.
Yes.
And Samson versus the Vampire Women.
I haven't seen Samson yet. I've only seen the host segments with Frank because
it's going to be coming out on DVD in July.
Nice.
It's part of the. You got the 2 Fugitive Aliens, the Samson, and then Sword and the Dragon.
Which means it'll probably be on Netflix around August, September. Cool.
Do you own any of the DVDs or videos, Lupa?
I do. Let me look. I have them on my shelf. Wait, okay, I got, because I have a few of them. The Manos Hands of Fate, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, I have those in the Essentials one.
Mm-hmm.
The one with Horrors of Spider Island.
11.
And it was the volume one, yeah. I have that one. That's my favorite on the set, so that's why I remember that. Crawling Hand, I Accused My Parents. Space Mutiny.
4.
Yeah. I believe that's all I have. The volume sets are very expensive, so it's kind of...
And they're out of print in a lot of them. So
yeah.
Now they're even more expensive.
Yeah.
I only have one volume set, but I have a lot of the tape trader copies from Gary at MST3Kvideos.com. Check it out now, kids.
Oh, actually, I have some VHS of Mystery Science Theater I forgot about. One of them's Mitchell, and the other one's, what is it called?
Describe it, I'll know it.
The Charlie's Angels ripoff.
Angel's Revenge.
Angel's Revenge, yeah. I have those ones on VHS because I found them at a Bookman's for, like, dirt cheap. So I have those, too. And I remember.
I need to get more official releases, but I have no money.
I'll sell you.
Well, it's very difficult because it's not like you can get, like, a box set. It's like individual movies. It's like paying for the movies themselves and buying every movie they ever ripped, and
yeah,
a lot.
I'm just glad they're all on Netflix. Almost every one they've released is on Netflix now.
Save for a few of the early Rhino ones, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what Gary's for.
Yeah. I think I just got some from him because I hosted a contest on the MST3K discussion board, and I think I got 801 Revenge of the Creature and 503 Ega.
No, 506.
506.
503
right.
is Swamp Women.
Right.
Swamp Diamonds, women.
I have that one too. I keep mixing them up. And actually, I got 3 DVDs for hosting the contest, and I gave one to my friend to do some commission work for me, and he accidentally sent, because I didn't give him my address too, because he said he still had it, because he sent DVDs to me all the time. So he sent all of them to my friend Kevin. So I'm waiting on Kevin to send them back to me. So.
This is what it's like having an extended conversation with us, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's really all the MSTieCast is, an extended conversation between MST fans.
Like, yeah.
And we intend to keep it that way. Mm-hmm. No one's asking us to change it, but still.
Well, that's what you would expect on the Mystery Science Theater podcast. I would hope.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, we mentioned riff tracks earlier. Do you have any favorite riff tracks or any of those?
Favorite riff tracks? I think out of the ones I've seen, probably The Room. The Room was really fun.
It is a classic.
I did think it was funny how they had to cover time during the sex scenes because there's really nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, it's fun.
Adult Swim, they run The Room every year for April Fools, except for this year because they did Toonami instead.
They only did it 1 year, but go ahead.
No, they've done it for about 3 years.
They did one? Okay. I only remember one.
I think maybe one of the years they did... No, wait, no, that wasn't April Fools. I was just thinking of when House That Dripped Blood on Alex played, but that wasn't. them.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But yeah, they've done it I think 3 years or maybe 2 years previously, and they started it this year, but then they did Toonami instead, much to everyone's shock. And I really wish one year they'd show it with the riff tracks, like if they could. That would be hilarious.
Well, if you guys have never been to a live showing of The Room, it's really recommended because, you know, when you go to a theater full of people and you're encouraged to riff it, and you have the spoons, and there are some people that like show. It's kind of like at showings of Rocky Horror Picture Show where they've memorized certain things that you say at certain cues, and that's a lot of fun to do. The Room is one of those movies you can't just sit down and watch. You have to have an audience with you and have fun with it.
Right. I'm trying to remember I've never seen The Room in a theater. I've never seen Rocky Horror in a theater, which I really want to. I think the only good movie I've seen in a theater with an audience that wasn't like a direct release, that wasn't like a Hollywood release, was Ghostbusters. When I saw that last October, the re-release, and it was awesome.
You really have to live near a theater that kind of shows stuff like that. See, it's more difficult for me because, you know, my town's so small that like we have one movie theater and they don't show stuff like that. They just show the big releases.
Right.
But you know, bigger cities, they have things like that. Like in Phoenix, they have theaters like that. That's where I saw The Room.
Well, I live in a big city, and we're kind of dominated by the megaplex concept, which is the idea that, you know, they only big movies are going to bring in people, therefore we will only show big movies or recently released.
Well, and you have to get rights to show the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
The older ones, and those are already available on DVD, so it makes sense. It's nice when there's theaters that kind of focus on, you know, cult classics or B movies and things like that.
Yeah, the nearest discount theater to me that doesn't show on release stuff is about hour and a half away, and it's actually right next to where I saw Ghostbusters, and I would go there probably every week if I had the money, but an hour and a half away in gas, yeah, not really feasible just to get a $2 ticket to see a movie in 3D.
Yeah. What do you think about this whole 3D phenomena that's going on right now? Because it was really passe. It was really seemed like it was going to take over in the 80s, and it didn't happen. And now here we are in 2012, and everything is being either made and or re-released in 3D.
It's a gimmick, but honestly, I think that the people making the movies are the ones that are more fans of 3D than an audience, because you make more money with it. Because I've only actually seen one movie in 3D, and that was Avatar. And it was fun, but I don't remember anything that particularly jumped out at me. I mean, it was well done, I guess, but most of them aren't even built for that purpose. They're just 3D that, you know, was made in retrospect, or, you know, like afterwards they turned it into 3D. And
yeah, like the Phantom Menace. Oh boy, the Phantom Menace in 3D.
Made money, didn't it?
Well, I mean, you could...
Yeah, it did.
You could have Phantom Menace brand fake dog poo and it would sell.
Yeah, well,
I'm pretty sure that's what they called the Jar Jar Binks toy.
But you can, if you repackage anything as 3D, you can charge more for the tickets. And that's why they do it. It's not because the 3D is so cool, it's because they'll make more money on it. And that's why it's going to last. I think eventually the popularity will fade out, but
I look forward to that.
I don't think it's because people like 3D. I think it's because, you know, they want to make more money. 3D is the best way to do it.
And personally, I'm hoping the 3D re-release trend will go into a trend of just re-releasing movies, because like stuff like The Lion King is amazing to see in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the big screen, that is a great big screen movie, and I'm glad it was re-released. Same with Beauty and the Beast, and I really hope Disney continues the trend, because Disney movies are great to see in the theater. Ghostbusters.
Disney periodically does re-releases, don't they?
They
Not
usually
to
just
theaters.
usually just on DVD, and then
Because
they
they-
get put back in the Disney vault.
Okay.
And then there's some movies where they're only enjoyable in the theater. Like Twister is a big example of a movie that you go to a theater and you see the Twister, you're like, holy cow! And then you watch it on your TV and you're like,
Yeah, no. Actually, Twister re-released in 3D would actually wouldn't be that bad. With the cow coming at you and whatnot. Yeah, you have to suffer, the bland romance in 3D, but
Yeah, there was a rip-off of Twister called Tornado that Bruce Campbell did. It was somehow even more boring. I remember they did try, and it had Ernie Hudson in it too. And they did try, because I remember there was parts where they went to like the tornado devastated towns, and they kind of tried to, have a human element in it. And there's a bit at the end where they're like in the eye of the storm, and that's what saves them. And it sounds more interesting than it was, but
I have to check that out because Bruce Campbell and Ernie Hudson sounds awesome. Except for, Congo, because that didn't really work. Because they killed off Bruce Campbell too early.
Ernie Hudson was in another one that I saw not too long ago. It was, forget if it was Shark Attack 1 or 2. I think it was Shark Attack 1, because I was watching those because I reviewed Shark Attack 3, directed by David Worth. And I wanted to see the first two, but of course they're not related to the third one, and they were really kind of boring, so they weren't really worth the watch. But the first one had Ernie Hudson. He was like kind of their Jaws equivalent of the mayor or whatever, like, I'm gonna, so what if the sharks are all evil, or, we gotta continue with whatever my plan is. I don't remember what his plan was. In the end, he gets eaten by sharks.
Okay.
So it's funny.
Well, divine retribution.
You saw it coming a mile away, too. Like, once he's in the water, you're like, nah, he's Shark Chow.
Speaking of Ernie Hudson, I am really stoked for Ghostbusters 3, and I really hope they release Ghostbusters 2 back into theaters, because seeing Ghostbusters 1 in a theater with people who grew up in it, and there was a bunch of, like, really small kids there, like 6 to 12-year-olds, who had, like, never seen it before, and you really can't imagine the glee I felt seeing kids being scared by puppetry and, like 80s special effects over CGI films where they don't feel nothing. When that library ghost, like, transformed, the looks on their faces.
Well, and especially if you're a
Amazing.
kid that young, to not be as familiar with practical effects, you get kind of jaded to the CGI, and then to see something like that on the big screen, it is pretty creepy, the library ghost.
Yeah, and it just reminds me of a quote from I think it's Michael Bay's Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. They did. It's expensive CGI that doesn't look nearly as good as puppetry from 50 years ago. It's right. It's very true, and that's really the only thing I'm sad about for Ghostbusters 3 is I really hope they don't go the full CG route.
Well, are they officially going ahead with Ghostbusters 3, or is it still in the stages where they're trying to make it happen? Because
Dan Aykroyd's pretty adamant it's going to happen. They're going ahead without Bill Murray because I think Bill Murray shredded the script and sent it back to them.
he went on like
I heard that.
he went on like Letterman or something, and
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it.
Well, I think it would depend on how they did it, though, because I think the real charm about Ghostbusters is really the characters and sort of the being a product of its time. If you're going to update it, then you need to be focusing on the characters that you cared about, and without Bill Murray, it'd be a little bit difficult. And I know they were talking about passing the torch on to another generation, and I don't know if that's the right idea. It would depend on how the movie turned out, but you didn't just watch because cool Ghostbuster idea, because I mean, you've seen similar ideas with ghosts and things like that. I mean, not exactly the idea, but it really had to do with the cast and how it was handled.
Right.
So it would depend, I suppose.
Yeah, because I mean, they are doing the pass the torch thing. I think Jonah Hill is one of the people they're looking at for one of the new Ghostbusters, and yeah, I'm a fan of Jonah Hill, but I don't know if he'd work in this role.
Well, would anyone work in the role, though? That's what I'm trying to say about them doing the passing the torch thing. Who would you want to see as Ghostbusters?
Not Shia LaBeouf, I can tell you that.
You know, I think I'm one of the few people who doesn't mind Shia LaBeouf. I don't think he should be a Ghostbuster. But
I like Shia LaBeouf, but he has no place in being in action movies.
Yeah.
I loved him in Holes. Holes is one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite books.
I like Disturbia. That was one he did
Yeah,
kind of nifty movie.
Disturbia was pretty good. He wasn't very good in Eagle Eye though. Eagle Eye wasn't. That's back when they were really, really trying to market him as an action hero. Like this was the movie he did right after Transformers 1. He was like he played twins, and one of them was in the army and he died, and his brother was getting his thoughts or something. I don't know. It wasn't very good.
Well, the thing that I like about Shia LaBeouf when he's working in the role that he's doing is that he is a good comedian, or at least he was at one point. I thought so. But he's not just an action star, serious. Like I think he's good at doing clever dialogue with what he's doing. Kind of balancing the comedic stuff with the action rather than just trying to be straight-laced.
Yeah, he's funny. I mean, I think he would have been better in 21 Jump Street than Jonah Hill was. You know? Like, he could have probably made that work a lot better. And I didn't really care for 21 Jump Street.
Didn't see it. Knew it was going to be crap.
I would spoil it for you, but I don't know how many people are listening that would care.
I don't think I know it's going to be bad when they advertise it during Fox's animation lineup.
Zing.
It didn't look like much of anything to me, but I'm not really opposed to going the comedic route, because I thought the Starsky and Hutch remake that they did that was comedic was pretty funny.
I kind of like Starsky and Hutch because Snoop Dogg was pretty much born to play Huggy Bear.
Yeah, see, that one worked. I think it, again, would depend on the source material, because some people would rather just see it be more true to the source material, but, you know, if you're not as invested in the show, then it wouldn't matter. I don't think there were Starsky and Hutch fans that were like, oh, you ruined my Starsky and Hutch.
I think it's because Starsky and Hutch was, you know, it was a cop show, but they also had humor. It was a lot of, like, jokes and stuff. Yeah. Stuff like 21 Jump Street that was a drama, it's, you know, it's more jarring to see it as a comedy. And the Brady Bunch worked pretty well as a comedy. My Favorite Martian, I kind of like.
Bewitched didn't work out so well, but that was a comedy.
Well, that's really because they were trying to be meta with it.
Okay.
And, you know.
Scooby-Doo didn't work out, and that was trying to be...
No.
I like Scooby-Doo.
The movie? No.
It was horrible,
I'm a huge Scooby-Doo fan, and I hated that movie.
Yeah, I did not like the movie.
I saw that in theaters when it came out.
So did I, and God, how old was I when that came out? When did that come out,
creepy.
Like 2001?
2002. I was about to say, I think I know how old you would have been, and that's really creepy.
God.
I was 12 or 13 when that came out then.
I'm 19, so how old was I?
You would have been like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I was a huge Scooby-Doo fan, and I was disappointed.
Well, I liked Scooby-Doo all right, too. I liked the Halloween specials that they did, especially. Like, I liked the Reluctant Werewolf.
I love Reluctant Werewolf.
Those were so...
But, you know, I liked the movie because I liked that it was kind of tongue-in-cheek about the whole thing and kind of poking fun of it at it because Scooby-Doo to me was a little bit silly. I enjoyed it, but it was a little silly. So.
I don't know if I agree with that at all, because they said that they were going to make it much more tongue-in-cheek. They were going to make it more like the Brady Bunch movie.
Which would have been awesome.
Yeah, I would have preferred that than what they ultimately did, which was having everyone in the movie be in on the joke.
Yeah, and see, like, I loved the casting. The casting was pretty perfect. Linda Cardellini was a perfect Velma. Freddie Prinze Jr. was a great Fred. Matthew Lillard is still playing Shaggy, and he's still very good at it.
He was a good choice.
And Rowan Atkinson was a great villain, but it's the ending that killed me. It was Scrappy Doo.
I'm sorry, but I hated Scrappy Doo. I hated him.
So did I. That's why I hated he was in the movie.
Yeah, but he was the villain. That's the great part. They know how much everyone hates Scrappy Doo. That's why he's the villain in the end. That's great.
Pointing this out about Scooby-Doo is it started out really, really dark. Scooby-Doo, where are you? We all agree it was really dark in the beginning. Then you get, what was the second one?
The new Scooby-Doo movies, I think.
The new Scooby-Doo movies. Okay, not so dark. Little dark.
The Harlem Globetrotters.
You get the Harlem Globetrotters, not so dark, a little bit. Then you get Scrappy-Doo. And he makes it really kid-friendly. Then you get a pup named Scooby-Doo.
You forgot about 13 Ghosts.
13 Ghosts, which was somewhat scary, not very good.
Vincent Price.
You got Vincent Price.
Scrappy was there, but he wasn't as bad. Yeah. Instead, we had that kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if it had to do with it being kid-friendly, why I hated Scrappy-Doo, because I liked a pup named Scooby-Doo.
I think it was absolutely trying to be kid-friendly.
I liked a pup named Scooby-Doo, though. So.
Either that...
Yeah, pup named Scooby-Doo was fun, though. It was a fun kids movie. Like, with Scrappy-Doo, it was like it screamed of trying too hard and trying to market to kids in the wrong way, whereas pup named Scooby-Doo seemed like the right way to go about it.
Well, and that was in that Hanna-Barbera era, sort of the 80s, where you had shows like Snorks and the Flintstone Kids.
Muppet Babies.
I know why they did it, but it's one of those really bad marketing ideas, like, that wasn't very popular. And that's why, the reason that I liked the ending of Scooby-Doo, the live-action one, where it was Scrappy as the villain, is because you really didn't expect it, because you didn't expect it to actually say, yeah, that was a really bad idea, we really agree with it, let's have some fun with it, because, you don't expect something to make fun of the show that it came from like that. And I think that's why I liked the joke at the end.
It was unexpected, but, it wasn't completely out of nowhere, because they did have the flashback, and that was, that was fine, but I don't know, the pee joke was kind of bugged me even at that young age.
Well, it was definitely... I remember when the sequels to the live-action movie came out, I didn't watch those because then they got just stupid. But the first one, I think, kind of rode the line between being too goofy and trying to be a little better than that, a little better than the sequels did. It still wasn't the best movie in the world, but it's one of those guilty pleasure kind of movies, I guess.
I was one of the people that preferred the cartoon films, the straight-to-DVD ones, Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost.
Where I was going with my thing about the darkness is you had all these kind of light Scooby-Doo things, and then Ted Turner bought the rights in the 90s, and then BAM! You get hit in the head with this scary-ass Scooby-Doo movie. Sorry if I've deafened you, by the way.
It's fine.
You had really, really light, and then you get hit in the head with the scariness, is what I was trying to say before I turned our audience.
Well, I don't think...
The audience is now deaf.
Well, maybe this was just my mentality, but I remember whenever I was watching Scooby-Doo, like the old ones, I always wanted it to be a real monster. I thought it would be more interesting, and it was kind of old, but it was always something fake. And then when they started doing real monsters and stuff like that, I was fine with that, because I thought it was more interesting.
Well, they did that in the Scrappy-Doo era, and I thought, bull. I remember the first episode of the Scrappy-Doo version that I saw, and I was like, why is it when are they going to take the mask off? I want to see who's under the thing. No, I'm not happy with it being a real monster.
It really depends on how it's handled, and that's what I liked about the the direct-to-video movies, which I own all of from that era. Not all of the movies, because they get pretty bad. But yeah, it was a real monster, and it was actually really scary. Like, Zombie Island still is terrifying. Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost, I really liked because, hey, Tim Curry and Scooby-Doo. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. You know, I really should start doing... I should really start doing reviews of Scooby-Doo movies.
What'd you say, Lupa?
Was there a reason for why Shaggy had a red shirt in some of them?
Like a reason that was explained?
No, I mean, like, was there a particular reason, or they just decided he's gonna have a red shirt this time?
He had a red shirt. When did they?
I heard it was like a coloring error, and they did so much of it, it was too late to change it or something. I don't
really?
know. Yeah, it was during like the Scrappy Doo era. He had a red shirt, and Scooby had a red
collar
at some point.
Yeah.
Huh. Because I think it was like that in Reluctant Werewolf too, and that's why I remember.
And I think it might have been during the Ghoul School too. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it was, because I remember. Yeah, he was definitely red in Ghoul School.
Which I enjoyed the Ghoul School.
I remember a little bit of that one.
I think that was like one of the first times there was a real monster.
I kept waiting for them to take the masks off those kids.
Actually, going back to the live-action movie, I actually prefer the second movie to the first one. Because the second Scooby-Doo movie, Monsters Unleashed, it feels more like it's tongue-in-cheek. Like they take the mask off of Alicia Silverstone at the end of the movie, and it's Tim Blake Nelson. It's like, what?
I think all the Scooby-Doo movies are probably in the category of, like, no one really wants to admit if they like them, but they'll watch them if they're on.
I own the first one. I don't own the second one, which is weird because I like the second one better.
The
prequel ones aren't very good.
What prequel ones? You mean the Cartoon Network prequels?
The Cartoon Network prequels where Fred has brown hair and Velma's Asian, and
yeah.
Not that being Asian makes you bad. It's just that
the character is an Asian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoy the current series, Mystery Inc.
Yeah.
So good.
I am really happy. I hope it got renewed. Did it get renewed?
I believe it did.
Even if it's just 26 more, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, because you don't want the mystery to go on too long. No. Have you seen that, the Mystery Inc.?
No.
The current series, it's kind of I hesitate to call it a prequel to the main series, but basically they're based in their hometown. They're solving mysteries, and there's this like really old mystery that creates a season-long arc they're trying to solve.
It's an overarching thing. Yeah.
And Louis Black is in it, so it's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Matthew Lillard's playing Shaggy now. And the people who played Daphne and Velma for the past couple of years.
Mindy Cohn plays Velma, and it's Greta Leslie plays Daphne.
Greta Leslie, yeah.
And then Frank Welker, who's played Fred since the 60s, is still Fred.
It's a lot better than Get a Clue, which was awful.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible. Did you see Get a Clue?
No.
You are lucky.
Shaggy and Scooby inherit Shaggy's, was it uncles?
I think it was his uncle.
Yeah, his uncle's mansion, which has, like, Scooby snacks that give them superpowers.
Thank you.
And they have a pimped-out mystery machine, and they fight like an evil professor or something, and it's really dumb. And Shaggy's played by the guy who played Robin in Teen Titans.
Not that he was bad in Teen Titans, but he's just bad as Shaggy.
He was also Mati.
Yeah, he was Mati.
Hurt! I can sense you all. Okay, just to get off of the Scooby-Doo tangent, what do you think of the Captain Planet remake?
They're remaking Captain Planet?
They're going to do a movie.
Oh.
I think that's going to be hilariously awful.
Yeah.
Unless they do it all animated. But they said they're going to do it live action.
It's live action,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Hilarious. Because Captain Planet it's dumb, and if they make it to live action, there's nothing but disaster coming from that.
Captain Planet is the We Are the World of children's television. We've spent the last 20 years just making fun of it.
I know, yeah.
I liked Captain Planet as a kid, but
So
even I
fun.
know it's goofy, and you don't need to make it live action. Like, all you got to do is look up Captain Planet cosplay if you want to laugh. Like, it just looks silly when you take it out of a cartoon.
They actually just did a Cartoon Network fighting game, and Captain Planet is a playable character.
And you can see Captain Planet at 5:30 in the morning on Boomerang.
Yes, you can.
Wouldn't it be a great disaster if they did like M. Night Shyamalan's Captain Planet, and it turned out like Last Airbender, where it was like really dark and talky and like, he's the chosen one, the Captain Planet, our powers combined. That would be just such a great disaster.
But
It wouldn't be a good movie. But...
The guy who played Sokka as Mati.
Mhm.
I didn't watch Last Airbender.
I did.
And
So I
all of them
have
are
the
like
ref tracks of it.
I watched
All
the
of them are played by white people, even though they're all supposed to be from different countries.
Yeah,
They're all like, just American white kids.
Gi is a white girl from Southern California.
Yeah.
As long as Michael Bay's not doing it. Explosions everywhere. All caused by Wheeler just going.
Yeah, but then they'd all just be like racist stereotypes.
Shia LaBeouf is Wheeler.
Yeah. Oh my god. It totally would be.
He kind of looks like him.
With the red hair.
If you dyed his hair,
Gaia!
if you dyed his hair red, it kind of does look like him.
Yeah.
Kaya!
Oh my god.
No,
Oh my god.
no.
Dev Patel is Mati. Oh god. I just know they're probably gonna do that now. And that makes me
Michael
sad.
Bay's Captain Planet. That'd be awesome.
Is there a set director? Like, how far along is this thing supposed?
I think they're still writing it.
Okay.
It's probably not for a while.
It's not gonna be as bad as the Smurfs, I think, because the Smurfs was wretched. And at least Captain Planet is something we've pretty much done nothing but make fun of. So they can't really. I can't see them going too serious with it. It's Captain Planet. The name says it all. You know?
Begs my question.
I'm just trying to imagine how is a good way to handle that, and I just don't see one that isn't insulting or purposefully bad.
Do you think Ted Turner knew he was creating something bad or something that was kind of in on its campiness?
I like to think he lost a bet. Like the network made him put something eco-friendly on, and he begrudgingly agreed.
Well, I think Captain Planet was exactly what it was supposed to be, which was just, the story didn't really matter. It's just about being environmentally friendly. It's supposed to be goofy.
Now, here's my question. Will Jeff Goldblum, Meg Ryan, and Tim Curry return?
They were only in the first season, weren't they?
Really?
They were
I know Jeff
recurring
Goldblum
villains.
was. I know Jeff Goldblum.
Who did Jeff Goldblum play?
I don't know. One of the
That dude who kind of looks like a rat.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just imagining Jeff Goldblum as a voice actor. I don't think he stretched himself very far.
Meg
I love
Ryan
Jeff
was
Goldblum,
Dr.
but
Blight.
He's good at playing himself, basically.
Meg Ryan was Dr. Blight, and Tim Curry was that computer dude.
Tim Curry may have been on longer, but I'm sure Meg was, because I think this was before Meg Ryan was Meg Ryan. This was before.
I think it was like right before she became Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this was after like when Harry Met Sally, so.
Okay, maybe not. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. You're right.
And this was after Jeff Goldblum was Jeff Goldblum.
In The Fly.
And well, he was Jeff Goldblum in everything.
There's a fly. We're in Jurassic Park.
Life will find a way.
I really wish that they'd done the original version of The Fly 2, where it was like his consciousness in a computer. That would have been great.
That would have been great.
It would be the worst idea ever, but at least it would be funny. Unlike the actual Fly 2, which was just
And by the way, I believe they're doing a third Scooby-Doo movie, like a third studio movie.
I thought they already did. I guess I
No,
was
they
wrong.
only did 2.
Well, they did 2 studio and 2 prequels, and I think the third one is going to be the third studio one.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure how that's going to go, but again, I like Scooby-Doo too, so I'm hopeful for that.
Maybe we'll get lucky and then at the end of it they'll all die.
Like Zoink Scoob, I'm a ghost. I can't do a good Scooby-Doo, but I can do a pretty decent Shaggy.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
I used to be able to do a pretty good Vincent Van Gogh, but I can't anymore. Which, by the way, is another reason why you should watch Mystery Inc. because
They reference Vincent Van Gogh.
they reference every old series.
Did you see the Scrappy Doo reference?
I did.
I love that reference.
They had an episode where Scooby-Doo teamed up with like Speed Buggy and Jabberjaw to try and solve a mystery. Like all the sidekicks.
I can do
banded
Jabberjaw.
together.
No respect. I'm sorry, are you Jabberjaw or Rodney Dangerfield? I can't remember.
Huh?
Well, no, isn't that one of the Stooges?
Yeah.
Yeah, Curly. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jabberjaw was an amalgam of a bunch of characters.
Mostly Scooby-Doo.
It amazes me that people remember Jabberjaw, because how many episodes of Jabberjaw was there?
Well, it's because they Cartoon Network would reshow it endlessly in the 90s.
Well, what are you going to show? Are you going to show something that was only on for 16 episodes? Or are you going to show something?
I remember seeing some that were being replayed on one of the cable Cartoon Network things that they did. Like they were re-airing Jabberjaw. Yeah, Boomerang. They were re-airing that pretty recently, actually. So it's still going.
I know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's amazing that people remember it, seeing as how it was only on for 16 episodes.
I'd really like to see a revival of Space Ghost. Not even like of Coast to Coast. I mean like classic Space Ghost. I would watch that because Space Ghost's appearance in Batman was amazing in Brave and the Bold. And I wasn't even a big fan of Brave and the Bold, but seeing Space Ghost was pretty awesome. And I would have liked to see Birdman, but there was no Birdman. Yeah, well. Anyway, well, we've been off Mystery Science Theater for a while. These tangents tend to happen.
I'll just say it right now. Mike versus Joel. Go. Lupa, I'm talking to you. Mike versus Joel. Mike versus Joel. Go.
Okay, well, I'll go with the cop-out that they're both good. That I like them both. I think I prefer Mike, because that's where most of my favorite episodes come from. Joel is more it's not really how he says things, it's what he's saying, and you got to think about it a little more. And Mike is a little more accessible with the jokes. And a lot of my favorite riffs were ones that he did, and I liked the movies that he did, so I'll go with Mike on this one.
There is
Good
no
answer.
right or wrong answer.
Unless the answer is, I hate both of them, what the hell are you doing?
He was the head writer, though. He was responsible for most of the jokes anyway, right?
Yep. Yes, he was.
But the
Season
wrong,
2 onwards, I believe.
the wrong answer
I liked
is...
when he
I'm gonna
played
start
Torgo in the
Yep.
Manos Hands of Fate episode. That was good.
Large sausage pizza, extra cheese.
I forgot
No,
your
it's
crazy
you.
bread. It's in the car.
And then did you see Operation 007?
He comes back like 6 months later with their pop, finally. Here's your pop. Like, it's been 6 months. I'm sorry. The master wanted you to have these coupons and take them. And then he starts to fondle Frank.
And then he like comes back later to tell everyone that Urkel isn't very funny.
Yeah, that was great. I was never really a big fan of Urkel.
Thank you, Torgo.
See, I used to give Mystery Science Theater credit for not being too topical, but looking back, they were incredibly... Like, Urkel was so topical in the 90s.
I remember when they did EGA, and I think Joel makes the reference to Fern Gully.
Yes.
Hey, he looks like the bat from Fern Gully.
It always weirds me out when I'm watching like a riff tracks.
The haunting Torgo theme.
It always weirds me out if I'm watching riff tracks or something and they do a really modern reference, looking like, you don't belong in this time period.
Yeah, like, well, in some movies it's okay. Like in the Twilight review, they, like, I think the newest one, they make a reference to going to fight the bronies. The werewolves are going to fight the bronies.
But it still just weirds me out when they do really topical references for now, like, because it's just so stuck in my head that Mystery Science Theater stuck in the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was part of the appeal to me, too, watching them retroactively. All the references reminded me of things,
I think
forgotten about,
We don't have any fans of The Nanny in here, do we? Because I'm going to go on a
I
rant.
love The Nanny.
I
I
always thought that The Nanny wasn't funny because it was just so damn topical. Like, it could only be funny if you were alive in 1996. So, like, if I watch an episode of The Nanny, not that I would do that, but if I watch an episode of The Nanny, I'm like, what? I was 4 years old. This doesn't appeal to me.
I was 3.
Yeah, but I wasn't that old when the Nanny was airing. A lot of it I caught on Nick at Night, when they were re-airing it. But
Yeah,
I like how dated it is, really.
I really just watch for the Butler.
Well, and The Butler doesn't do anything too topical.
A lot of the jokes are really funny. The interactions. It's not so much the topical stuff. I mean, they had some stuff like she loved Barbara Streisand and things like that. You're like, all right, that's really dated.
All the Android Lloyd Webber Cats references.
Yeah, they did all those references and stuff. But I like it because of how dated it is sometimes. But not all the jokes are dated.
The point I was going to make was, okay, we all have this show that we don't like because we think it's too dated. Maybe it's not The Nanny, but for me it's The Nanny. I'm sure it is. But with Mystery Science Theater 3000, here's a show that's still funny despite being somewhat dated. That's what I was trying to say.
It's nostalgic.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being dated and nostalgic. I mean, there are some things that are stuck in their time, but that's part of what the appeal is because they're a product of the time. There are shows like Werewolf, that was such an 80s show down to being a fugitive clone and things like that. But that's part of what made the show what it was. And it kind of brings you back to that time. And that's what I like about some of these older things or some of the movies that I review when I'm watching them to see all the fashions of the time and, things that you don't really see in movies today. And I like that.
Yeah, that show for me, and you've reviewed this Big Wolf on Campus.
Mm-hmm.
That for me, that is just pure solid nostalgia because I would watch that after school every day, never failed. I really did love that show, and I really really wish it was on DVD.
Is it not on DVD?
It is not.
Is it because of music?
No, it's...
What is it?
The company that made it, they went out of business, and so it's kind of in limbo where the rights to the show lie. And there's not enough people who care about it to try and figure out who owns it to kind of...
Well, it is. I believe it is on DVD, but it was only a limited run in Quebec, and it was in French.
Well, that doesn't count.
There was some French VHS released.
Okay.
And there were a couple DVDs that were out with The Sun or something like that were promoting a couple episodes.
Right.
Those were in English, but as far as the whole show, it's mostly circulating online. But yeah, that's it's all VHS copies that got ripped.
Yeah, I have it via torrent, and
I remember Shout Factory was going to put Werewolf out on DVD, and then there was some kind of... They actually had the rights, they had a plan to do it, and then they couldn't clear one song, and because they didn't own the original audio track, they couldn't cut the song out. So
it was probably from the pilot. They played Future So Bright.
You think it was the Timbuk 3? You think that you think that it was the Timbuk 3 song? That's the band.
Damn you, Timbuk 3.
Well, that's the only song I remember that was an actual song, not a soundtrack thing. It could be I'm forgetting something, but I remember that because he was driving to that song.
There were a couple other songs they did. The theory that I've heard a lot was that it was Mike and the Mechanics, because I guess someone in Mike and the Mechanics doesn't want the song released. But this is all hearsay. But it was definitely one song that kept the entire DVD from getting put out.
Well, then you would think that they would either cut the episode or that scene, or dub over it, or do something with it if it's just one song.
Why didn't they dub over it? They couldn't dub over it because they didn't own the original audio, and if they were going to bring people... It was an extended scene. It wasn't just like 3 seconds. It was a long scene, supposedly.
Well, I guess it would depend on the episode. A lot of those episodes you could probably cut out. It wouldn't matter. It was only like near the end of the run that it started to do an actual plot you would need to know more than one episode for.
Like, you've never been on the Mystery Science Theater fan boards where we get people that go like, you cut half a second from the Killer Shrews release. And
people would bitch about it, but you would have the show on DVD.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying there would be 1,020 people angrily protesting the fact that one scene was cut.
But they got as far as like doing box art, and they were pretty close to releasing it. Werewolf, because I know there's still a listing on Amazon saying that you could pre-order it or it's coming or something, but you can't if anyone's listening. But
I'm not saying there's a right answer. I'm just saying that's the
perhaps one day you will get your Werewolf on DVD.
Perhaps one day. I'm not as tied to that show as She-Wolf of London because I talked about it in the review, but Werewolf is very much a fugitive clone, and it's hard to be invested in the main character, especially because the main actor, he's a little stiff. It's kind of hard to relate to him. He's not the greatest of actors.
He's no Tommy Dawkins.
No Brandon Quinn. Brandon Quinn has a career. He was on Against the Wall or something. I don't know if that's still airing, but he's the main character in that. He's still got a career. Rochelle Lefebvre in the Twilight movies, she's still doing stuff.
If you call that a career.
Well.
Hey, if you're making money.
You have.
Yeah. One that was famously fired off of, but.
I'm slumming it. I would pay to be in the Twilight movies just for the exposure.
Yeah. There was I know they were doing something with the third movie, I think, where you could vote to get an actor to have a small role in the movie or something, and people were trying to get Tommy Wiseau in it. It's pretty fun. I would have loved it.
I heard Tim and Eric are trying to do a project with Tommy Wiseau, and I don't know how that's going to work because
them, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did an episode with them, and they had like an interview with him, and I don't know how that's going to work because their whole shtick is they're intentionally bad, but Tommy hasn't really gotten the hang of being intentionally bad yet.
No, if you've watched any of the Tommy Wiseau, it's a mixed bag.
It's
like there are times when he's really trying to be funny, but it's confusing.
He needs to get
I thought you were my friend, alien. And the guy's like trying to play off him, like, no.
You can tell the alien's trying so hard.
He's trying so hard with someone who has no idea how comedy works. which can make it funny in a really awkward way, but it's definitely not the way Wisso's intending it.
I guess if he did get someone like Tim and Eric to write for him, it'd work better. And I'm not even a real big fan of their work, but they can do intentionally awful.
Well, The House That Drips Blood on Alex, that was actually funny intentionally. I don't know if either one of you watched that. That was the short film Wisso did. But he only performed in it. All the dialogue was written by the guys making it, and they were really funny, and it worked pretty well. Some of his deliveries were a little weird, but
it was Wisso, so
yeah. But if you have a competent person writing for him, he does okay. Because they knew who his audience was and who they were appealing to as well, so
yeah.
It helps that they could work that to their advantage.
I think he's trying to get like a TV show now. Like he's working on a pilot or something.
Oh yeah, if you ever see, it's probably still on YouTube. I think it was called The Neighbors or something. It's a sitcom he wanted to do, and there's clips of it. And he's been trying to pitch that for so long. But it looks hilarious just because, again, it's someone who has no concept of what comedy is trying to do comedy, and like other people trying to do his dialogue. And, it's pretty funny. If you ever read the description for the show, too, it makes little sense.
See, now I want to know what the kid who played Denny is up to. He looks like the neighbor kid from a sitcom.
Well, it could be like Mark Sestero, maybe he's still doing other projects. I know the girl who played Lisa, I'm spacing on her name, but she's getting back into acting. She's been doing some stuff.
Yeah, she seemed like she probably could act if her dialogue wasn't awful. If she had some actual direction.
I don't think anyone in the movie was that bad. If they had the right direction, they'd probably be all right. It's just because they're performing with So's dialogue and they have no real direction.
I got the results of the test back. I definitely have cancer. Oh. And you and Doug, you guys really nailed that movie. Like, the reviews of that movie are just... They're great. And I like watching them both. You're welcome. Actually, we're trying to get Doug on the show, but he hasn't responded yet. I want to get him and Rob. But... Well,
right now they're working on the next anniversary,
right.
So they're really busy right now.
Well, I sent this like a months back. I was someone to Spoonie, but I know how Spoonie is about interviews and things. So I figured it was worth a shot.
So if you have any pull,
if I have any pull.
Phelan has seen Mystery Science Theater, yes?
I made him watch it.
Good for you.
Okay, well, here's the thing. He hadn't seen a lot of it. I think he'd seen a little bit, but the ones that people had made him watch were kind of like black and white ones or kind of boring ones, so it was kind of like wrong movies, wrong time. So he didn't, right. It was one of those shows he never really got into, but, when we started seeing each other and started watching things together, I'm like, no, we're going to watch, and we watched, I don't remember what the first one was. It might have been Soultaker, because I think we were trying to watch some Estevez ones, because he likes Joe Estevez too. So it might have been
Johnny Cash.
Hey, I really
yeah. So he's seen some with me, but not a huge amount. And I haven't seen like a ton of the show. I've seen quite a bit of it, and I really enjoy what I've seen. So I'm not nearly as encyclopedic as you guys.
He's the encyclopedia one.
Yeah, I'm the encyclopedia. Toby's just the orator, if you will. You have a better title than the one I gave you, do you, Toby?
Yeah, orator's fine.
Okay.
I prefer Lord and Master, but,
Go ahead, quiz me. No questions.
You can't just do that. It's a neat parlor trick, though.
What?
Being able to recall.
All right, name the last episode that they did without that they did unscripted.
Well, by that logic, it would have been a KTMA episode, and the last KTMA episode would have been Legend of the Dinosaur.
Okay. I wouldn't know if you're right anyway. No, there was one though. I know there was one. I don't think it was Legend of the Dinosaur though, but it was one that had like a rape scene in it or something, and they didn't know beforehand.
Well,
Side
no,
hackers.
they didn't unscript it. They watched, I think, the first 20 minutes of it, cleared it, and then watched it in its entirety, knowing that they would have to show it, saw the rape scene, and then they had to edit it out. Which, if you've actually seen that rape scene, not that I have, but it's not that bad, I've been told. It's not as bad as they made it out to be. It's not pleasant, it's not riffable, but it's not...
Well, it's very weird territory to get into when you're making fun of a movie that has a rape scene in it, because I come across that every once in a while in the stuff that I do. And really, a lot of the time, the best way to handle it is just by saying that it's not funny or moving on or making fun of how the movie handles it. It'd be really different with a riff because obviously you're just showing the movie, but
Which
it's very hard comedy. It's hard territory to cover.
Which begs their question. You know that they're re-riffing Manos, right?
Oh, they are?
Their riff tracks is doing Manos Hands of Fate. Which
live.
And my question is, how are they going to handle the master beating his wives? And,
is that something that happened that was cut out?
He beats his wives a bunch of times. And that's mostly what is cut is just him smacking the crap out of his wife. And
I guess it depends on how violent it is and how you handle it. Same thing with like murder, you know. It's
I mean, just think of in Plan 9 when the female alien got, bitch slapped.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they cut out plenty of murder. You never hear about the murders that got cut out. You hear about that one rape scene that got cut out. Which one was it? Incredible Melting Man had a bunch of murders that got cut. Zombie Nightmare had a really gruesome murder that got cut. And that's more confusing than Mitchell because this character gets killed, but we don't see him getting killed. So suddenly it's like the jerk-ass character just got away, and we never see him again. But
John Saxon, I believe it was in Mitchell.
Well, yeah, I know that, but I mean, in Zombie Nightmare, I was the guy.
I'm saying for the reference of the listener, viewer, person who likes the show.
And John Saxon got murdered. It is in the theater version. It is in the version you can buy on home video. But the version that was featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000 was the made-for-television version, which cut out a vast majority of the theatrical version, thus making it really confusing.
And I'm guessing that tends to happen a lot with like what they can get their hands on to riff, you know?
What were you going to say, Lupa?
Well, and it could depend on what they were able to show on television too, because a lot of these things, they're movies. Things that are okay in a movie wouldn't be okay on TV.
Oh yeah. Well, the John Saxon thing is really bloody, supposedly. I haven't seen it.
So, but that kind of raises a question that, what is okay to make fun of in a movie or not, and when does it cross the line between it's just a movie and that's really offensive? Because there are things that Phelan reviews. Obviously, he mostly covers horror movies, and a lot of those can be really violent, and there's things that are really disgusting in them. And sometimes it's hard to make the call when it's okay to make fun of certain things.
Yeah, I believe some fans were asking Brad Jones, the cinema snob, they were asking him why he doesn't do I Spit on Your Grave. And his response was, how do I snob a 40-minute rape scene?
Was it really 40 minutes?
That's what he said, but...
Goodness. I knew it was a really brutal rape scene in it, but I've obviously never seen it.
And he did that in the review of Cannibal Holocaust. So... Which, by the way, is a great review.
Brad's got a really difficult job because the movies that he watches are not the same as the kind of movies that I watch, because you think a shitty movie's a shitty movie, but exploitation really is a different thing of its own than just a bad movie. If you watch Troll 2, that's like a goofy, funny movie about trolls and they turn people into plants and things like that, or goblins or whatever. But exploitation movies, a lot of them are about the sex and the violence, and I don't envy him for making that stuff funny, because it'd be really difficult for me to do. Because I've seen Video Violence was one of the ones that he's done that I've actually seen. And that movie is just so long and boring, and then it gets to parts where it's just uncomfortable. And he made a really funny review out of it. And,
Beware Children at Play is another one of those.
Which one?
Beware Children at Play. It's like murderous children, and at the end they all get butchered.
Well, I think part of the reason it was so funny when Brad did it was because of how uncomfortable it made him. And he's able to kind of ride that line a little better because of the material he does on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah,
so
and he's been doing a lot more dark material, stuff like Child Bride and Necromantic, stuff like that.
Which really isn't that...
He did Last House on the Left as well.
So, yeah, Last House on the Left, which I still haven't watched that one. I really should, but I've seen pretty much every other review he's done. I just don't keep up with the newest one sometimes.
Well, a lot of the times, the thing that's interesting to me when it's something so notorious like that, like Last House on the Left, Cannibal Ferox, and things like that, is because when he goes into the history of why these things are so notorious, I like to learn about that. What was the controversy? What are the things in it that make people uncomfortable? And it's not necessarily about the joke. It's something that I just don't know a lot about, and it's not like in film books when you learn about, the 100 greatest movies of all time. It's things that kind of go under the radar a lot of the time, and that's what's interesting to me.
It's sort of the 50 worst movies of all time. I don't know if you've seen that movie. They're not the 50 worst movies of all time. They're 50 movies that were really bad that we know about. I'm sure there are worse than those 50 movies. I'm sure Incredibly Strange Creatures That Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies is not the worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
I really hope people call Plan 9 the worst movie ever made. It's like,
I hate that. Yeah.
Have you seen Manos: The Hands of Fate?
Even though I don't think Manos is the worst movie. I mean,
but it's still worse.
Yeah, it's worse. But I think there's worse than...
It depends on what you call a terrible movie too, because there's some movies that are so terrible they're not even watchable. Like,
exactly.
There are things like, I bring up Jerry a lot because that's the worst movie I've ever seen. But some people, like art critics, might like it. But how do you say if it's good or bad? It's just two guys walking in a desert for an hour and a half. There's nothing to it.
Well, then one of them dies.
Then you get movies that are just badly made in a sense that the lighting is bad, the sound, you can't hear what they're saying, the camera is not in focus. I consider that a bad movie. I don't consider Manos a bad movie.
Weasels Rip My Flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if a movie is entertaining but it's badly made, is it worse than a movie that's really well made, technically, but you can't watch it?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to judge what makes a movie really bad, and that's part of the reason that I like going over the movies that I do, because I like seeing things in them that other people don't see, because they think like, oh, well, it wasn't in theaters, or it's shot on video, there's no merit to it. But a lot of the times they have things that are more entertaining than a movie that's in theaters and really glossy, but doesn't have substance to it.
That is very true.
Well, I think now might be a good time to wrap up, don't you think?
Yeah, I was about to say, well, how long are we?
I think we're not counting the, hopefully we can cut this out, not counting the stuff that we're going to have to cut out, I think we're at about an hour and 30, maybe a little over that. But so let's just get right into it. What are your top 5 Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes?
Top 5. Manos: Hands of Fate, Soultaker, Werewolf, Time Chasers, and Space Mutiny.
Fast, I like it.
All good choices.
Yes.
All classics. All right, so thank you, Lupa, for appearing on the show. I would really like to have you on here again. You're a great guest.
Well, thank you for having me.
Does anyone have any final thoughts? Josh?
No.
Lupa?
Do we have anything planned for next time that we can tell them about? No?
Not really. Well...
We'll tell you we'll leave it a question mark for now. How about that?
Yes.
We'll tell you when we get it. Okay.
All All right, so thank you for watching or listening to the MSTieCast. I'm Toby Mobius.
I'm a Nicky Elf.
I'm Allison Pregler.
And this has been the show. Lay us out, Neil.
It stinks!
And that is how we end the show. And I will stop the video. Where is video? Here is video. We use Idiot Control Now as our theme song, and it's just a great tune.
Did you
I
see
really
What's the song?
Pod?
Idiot Control Now from Pod People.
You see Pod People?
Oh.
No.
I didn't see the Pod People one. Pod People.
They make fun of. Have you seen the? I don't know if he talks about the song in it, but they sing a song that's. But you can't really make out what they're singing in the song in the movie, and so they take that and made a sketch out of it in the episode.
Oh, okay.
It stinks.
Didn't they? They did a song for the werewolf driving in Werewolf too, right?
Yeah. The girl group song, which.
Where,
Yeah.
oh where, I've looked everywhere, wolf.
Please tell me you're recording this so we can put this as our stinger for the.
I'm not, but I hope you are.
I'm recording the audio.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be a bonus for the audio one.
Okay.
You should
Well,
just
like
Mike,
the
did you really
Patrick
go out?
Swayze
Did you really go
Christmas.
out with a guy named Steve who died? Well, actually, there's a very funny story behind. Oh, we got movie sign.
I kind of want to know about the guy named Steve who died, but whatever.